Gamma Jack is a secret superhero in The Incredibles who drew a lot of attention for being almost a supervillain. But what if we told you there's a good chance he's actually Jack from the future? Similarities. This theory sounds completely off the wall, but the truth is that it actually has strong arguments suggesting that Gamma Jack is the adult version of the Parr family's youngest child. Let's start with the most obvious similarities. Both are blonde, have hair that ends in a pointed tip, and wear very similar masks. Just compare the two side by side and the similarities become easy to notice. And there's also the detail in their names. They're both named Jack. That's a pretty big coincidence to just ignore. It feels more like Gamma Jack's name was chosen as a subtle hint at his true identity, a secret that has been hidden for over 20 years since the first movie was released, seeing as fans only recently started discussing Gamma Jack, even though information about him and other Golden Age heroes has been available in the DVD bonus features since the beginning. Of course, that alone isn't enough to confirm the theory, but throughout this video, we're going to explain everything that could have led Jack to end up in the past and eventually become this arrogant superhero who supposedly lost his life to one of Syndrome's Omnidroids during Project Kronos. And we'll also answer the big question: is there a chance this secret about Jack could be revealed in The Incredibles 3? Are you ready? Because another amazing Cinewave is starting now. Time travel. The first question that almost everyone asks when hearing this theory is, how could Jack be someone who was already an adult long before he was even born? And that's a completely valid question, but The Incredibles 2 actually gives us the answer. In the movie, the Parr family is learning to deal with Jack's many powers, one of them being his ability to teleport into another dimension that coexists with ours. This other dimension looks just like ours, and you can even hear Jack from it, but it's impossible to see or touch him. That's why the family had to use a device given to them by Edna Mode to see Jack while he's in that other dimension. And this is where we get our answer, because the interface of the device labels the place Jack teleports to as the fourth dimension. And this means way more than it seems. In physics, the fourth dimension refers to the concept of time. We have height, width, and depth, the three dimensions we can perceive. But there's also the dimension of when, meaning time. It exists even though we can't see it. That's why Jack becomes invisible when he enters the fourth dimension, but can still interact with the world around him. He's operating at a higher level of reality. So if the fourth dimension represents time, this means that this ability is far more powerful than the movie clearly shows, since the baby could theoretically use it to travel to different eras. And that's exactly how Jack could have ended up in the past, eventually becoming Gamma Jack. We have reasons to believe he ended up stuck in the golden age of superheroes, and soon we'll explain why. Personality. One reason some people don't believe this theory is because it's hard to imagine that the cute little baby making a mess in both movies would someday turn into someone like Gamma Jack. After all, Gamma Jack had a terrible personality. He was arrogant, temperamental, believed supers were above regular people, and prioritized saving attractive women over anyone else. It's hard to imagine Jack acting like that, but honestly, it makes sense that he could grow into it because he already has personality traits that could intensify over time. Jack is extremely destructive and impulsive, going into full combat with a raccoon in the second movie without caring about the chaos the fight caused. And there's an oddly specific trait they both share. They are very picky eaters. This aspect of Gamma Jack's personality is recorded in his file from the National Supers Agency, or NSA. And it's something so oddly specific that it's strange they would call attention to it at all. Unless it was meant as another subtle clue. One of Jack's very first scenes shows him refusing to eat his baby food, and in the second movie, he gets extremely angry whenever he doesn't get his favorite cookies. It's very clear that he is highly demanding with food, hating some things and becoming addicted to others. Jack even explodes in rage and transforms into a demon whenever he doesn't get his cookie, another sign of his intense emotional aggression. If you think it would be amazing to find out that Jack and Gamma Jack are the same person, comment below, #GammaPowers. Contrary to what many people might think, even Gamma Jack's powers have a hidden connection to Jack's. The hero from the past was capable of manipulating gamma radiation, doing things like firing radioactive energy blasts and creating explosions powerful enough to disintegrate people. It's extremely powerful, but it doesn't seem to match any of Jack-Jack's countless abilities, right? Actually, Jack-Jack may have already used Gamma-Jack's power in The Incredibles 2, since we see him firing green laser beams from his eyes, which just so happen to look very similar to the green beams Gamma-Jack can shoot in the game LEGO The Incredibles. And before you say it's a coincidence, the notes Edna Mode makes in the movie while studying the baby's powers say that Jack-Jack has the ability to control electromagnetism, and gamma radiation is literally a form of electromagnetic radiation, which means Jack-Jack should be able to do everything Gamma-Jack does. Okay, we've already confirmed that the baby has abilities very similar to this Golden Age hero, but what about all of Jack-Jack's other powers that Gamma-Jack should also be able to use? Where did they go? Gamma-Jack was only known for controlling gamma radiation, not for things like turning into a demon or becoming gigantic. So was he hiding his true potential? Well, actually, it's possible that Jack-Jack simply lost most of his arsenal of abilities. Edna Mode explains in The Incredibles 2 that many super babies manifest several powers at that age, but most of those abilities fade as they grow up until only 1 or 2 remain. This happens because supers in that universe have their abilities shaped by their personalities, and babies are still developing. They are blank canvases. Brad Bird, the creator of the franchise, confirmed that this really is the reason Jack-Jack is so powerful. Edna Mode says his case is unusual because his number of abilities is extremely high, but that doesn't mean he will stay that powerful when he becomes an adult. It's easy to imagine Jack-Jack gradually losing his powers until only gamma radiation manipulation remains, which would still make him one of the most powerful supers. The Fall. This would also explain why he stays in the past, because while he was still a small child, he may have used his dimensional teleportation and accidentally ended up decades in the past. Then, when he tried to return, he realized he could no longer travel through time, because he had just lost the power to move through the 4th dimension. Because of that, Jack-Jack would have been forced to spend the rest of his life in the past, growing up without his parents or siblings, with no one to teach him right from wrong. And looking at it from that angle, it's not that surprising that he would eventually become someone selfish, right? And it gets worse when you remember that someone had already been planting those ideas in his head since The Incredibles 2, Edna Mode. The designer never hid the fact that she sees supers as gods, and this was even stronger when it came to Jack-Jack, since she spoiled him and constantly reinforced how superior he was to everyone else because of his powers. After ending up stranded in the past, Jack-Jack likely started remembering the happy moments he had with Edna to comfort himself in such a different time period, which eventually led him to fully believe in everything she said, and become Gamma-Jack, someone arrogant, careless with human life, a hero more interested in fame and attention from women than in actually helping anyone, as a way to compensate for the loneliness he felt all those years after being stuck in the past. Subscribing to the channel is just as good as watching your favorite animations. Shall we click? Friendship with Mr. Incredible. Something that very few people talk about is that Gamma-Jack was one of Mr. Incredible's friends. This is shown in a deleted scene from The Incredibles 2, which would have shown Mr. Incredible, Frozone, and Gamma-Jack meeting a lawyer with powers at a restaurant and convincing him to become Gazerbeam. The three of them even helped Gazerbeam decide on his superhero name and outfit. So we can see that Gamma-Jack was part of the same friend group as Mr. Incredible, and the reason for that might actually be because he was his son, and that was the only way he could stay close to his father. Telling the truth would have been extremely risky, because Mr. Incredible would almost certainly not believe it, and even if he did believe it, that revelation could change the course of history and cause Jack-Jack to never be born. Gamma-Jack's return. At this point, it's pretty clear that this theory, despite sounding bizarre, is much more believable than it seems at first glance. But if it is true, then it's almost certain that this storyline will be confirmed in The Incredibles 3, possibly showing Jack-Jack traveling to the past and the Parr family trying to save him to prevent him from becoming Gamma-Jack. But on top of that, it's also possible that we might see Gamma-Jack return after supposedly having died during Project Kronos. But how, you ask? the same way he ended up in the past in the first place, through dimensional teleportation. Even though he theoretically lost that ability when he grew up, it's easy to imagine that being on the brink of death while fighting Syndrome's Omnidroid could act as a trigger for Gammajack to regain this power and use it to return to the present, maybe right after Jack-Jack has traveled to the past. This could be how his family discovers where the baby ended up. Maybe Gammajack could even help them rescue his younger self. Or what might happen instead is that Gammajack becomes a threat who tries to take over the world and start an era where supers control everything. In that case, the mission to go back in time and rescue Jack-Jack would be even more necessary, because stopping him from growing up without his family would cause Gammajack to be erased from existence. And who knows? That might be the only way to defeat him. If you liked this video, there are 2 more ready on the screen. Just click and keep watching with us. Thanks, and see you soon.